Chosen one, pause whatever you're doing. Turn down the noise. Block out every distraction. Because this is not just a video. This is a divine interruption. Something is pulling you here. Not just your curiosity, but your spirit. If your eyes are seeing this and your heart is beginning to tremble, that's not random. That's confirmation. Heaven has opened a window, and you've been drawn into it because tonight something sacred, strange, and supernatural is about to occur. This message is not for the masses. It's not for the casually curious. It's for those who are marked, for those who have been walking through the storm with no umbrella, trusting God in the silence, wrestling in the wilderness with nothing but faith and scars. It's for you, the one who's felt like giving up but didn't. The one who kept praying when it felt like heaven was quiet. And now the shift begins. Tonight, your body may go still, your limbs may feel like stone, but don't panic, don't run, because it won't be paralysis from fear. It will be the weight of glory. You're about to be arrested by the presence of God. There will be no room for movement, only majesty. You will be suspended between the natural and the supernatural, held still so the spirit can move wildly within you. Comment 777 below if your soul is already stirring, if something in you is whispering, "This is for me." That number is not just symbolic, it's spiritual. It signals heaven that you're in full alignment with what's being released right now. And before we go deeper, let me pause and say this from the depths of my soul. To every single one of you who has supported this channel through super thanks, you are not just viewers. You are co-builders in a divine assignment. Your generosity has expanded our reach and empowered these messages to touch souls across the world. Thank you. You're sowing into sacred ground, and your harvest will not delay. But now, lean closer, because what you're about to hear next may shake everything you thought you knew about divine encounters. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to be completely awake in the spirit, but unable to move a single muscle in the natural? What if the very thing you thought was a breakdown was actually God's way of making you still enough to receive a breakthrough blueprint? What if the silence of your body was the loudest moment of your calling? Stay with me, because in the next few moments, you're going to understand why this night is not like any other night. What's coming may just be the holiest, most electrifying, most life-rearranging hour you've ever lived through. Let's go deeper. God's chosen ones, you are going to be paralyzed for the whole night. Extreme changes. You've ruled out every natural explanation, haven't you? No medical condition fits. No amount of sleep or rest has helped. This isn't exhaustion from overwork, nor a crash from emotional strain. And yet, tonight, something foreign has overtaken you. You tried to stretch, to rise, to flow through your familiar rituals, but an unseen force has halted your every move. What could silence the rhythm of your body so completely? There's a reason you feel paralyzed, but it's not rooted in anything earthly. This is not illness. This is not weakness. This is divine intervention, much like when Ezekiel fell to his face before the glory of the Lord and could not rise until the Spirit entered him again. Ezekiel 3:23-24. You are experiencing a holy stillness, sacred, unsettling, and purposeful. God is interrupting your motion to initiate your transformation. Your soul is being rewired. Your spiritual nervous system is undergoing a recalibration that cannot happen while you're in motion. Have you considered that this momentary stillness is preparation, not punishment? Could it be that you are being preserved, not paused, for something far greater than you expected? When Jacob wrestled with the angel until dawn, he walked away limping, but he walked away with a new name and divine favor. Genesis 32:24-31. Just like Jacob, you're in a night of divine contention, and the paralysis is the mark of transformation, not defeat. The heaviness in your limbs, the inertia pressing against your muscles, it is not fatigue, it is the gravity of destiny. You are not being stopped because you are failing. You are being held because the next level requires a different architecture. God does not send new instructions through outdated systems. What if the feeling of being frozen is God reprogramming you at the cellular level? Cardinal Robert Sarah, a Catholic theologian known for his reflections on silence and divine stillness, once said, "Silence is not an absence. On the contrary, it is the manifestation of a presence, the most intense of all presences." Could it be that what feels like absence in your body is actually the overwhelming presence of the sacred? Outside the spiritual realm, renowned artist and Holocaust survivor Yehuda Bacon spoke about a night when he could not move or speak after witnessing the horror of a camp execution. But he later claimed that night became a turning point. "In that paralysis, I saw God's back. I understood beauty in a way I never had." His creative rebirth came after his body shut down completely. You are in a similar threshold, a space between former patterns and future power. Consider the chrysalis. A caterpillar suspends itself, motionless, wrapped in silence, only to emerge later as a creature of light and flight. Would the butterfly exist if it resisted that silent pause? Could your stillness tonight be the chrysalis for a new spiritual authority? And still, the question remains, why now? Why you? Why this kind of divine arrest? Consider Job, whose entire life collapsed overnight. But in the wake of cosmic loss, God restored him with double what was taken. Job 42:10. Your paralysis isn't the end. It's the intermission before multiplication. What looks like stillness is strategy. What feels like abandonment is recalibration. A woman named Marisol once woke in the middle of the night, unable to move. Her breath was shallow, her limbs lifeless, but her spirit was aflame. In that hour, she received a vision of her future ministry. She saw names, places, people she'd never met. That night of spiritual paralysis became the blueprint for a life that would later impact thousands in refugee communities across Europe. You are being sealed tonight in holy stillness. The world is convulsing. Geopolitical tensions are surging. Spiritual warfare is intensifying. Cosmic disturbances ripple through timelines. Your paralysis isn't isolated. It's synchronized with something heavenly. Could it be that God is setting you apart in this moment so you won't be swept away in the global spiritual chaos? Like the roots of a redwood tree, which grow wide and deep before towering upward. Your grounding must come before your rising. Nothing strong emerges from a shallow place. You've been feeling it for days, haven't you? The internal suspension, the invisible slowing, as if something greater than you has reached inside and pressed pause on your soul. It's not fatigue. It's not confusion. This is not something that a vacation, a nap, or a cup of coffee could fix. What you're going through right now is spiritual sedation, an anesthetic applied by the hand of God Himself to begin the most delicate operation of your life. God has already scanned what's ahead. He has seen the violent storms swelling across the spiritual landscape of nations, civil unrest, generational curses breaking open, demonic alliances forming under the cover of politics and media. And He has hand-picked you, not to observe, but to intervene. But what kind of responder can you be unless your entire inner world is stripped, silenced, and realigned? When the prophet Isaiah was commissioned, he first had to be undone. The coal from the altar didn't touch his lips until he admitted, "Woe is me, I'm a man of unclean lips." Isaiah 6:5-7. Could your stillness tonight be a coal moment, a divine purification that makes your voice fit for battle? You may be walking, talking, even smiling, but deep inside something has frozen, not in fear, not in defeat, but in the still command of divine intention. Has it occurred to you that this paralysis is not a malfunction, but an invitation into a realm beyond motion? That your old operating system, one built on past wounds, reactive defenses, trauma-induced survival instincts, is being forcibly dismantled? When Elijah fled to the cave in 1 Kings 19, he wasn't hiding from Jezebel as much as he was being reset. God didn't speak to him in fire or earthquake, but in a still, small voice. What if your inner silence tonight is actually the environment required to hear instructions for your next assignment? You've been dragging weight that doesn't belong in the next chapter. Emotional habits born in childhood, thought patterns that comforted you in storms, but now sabotage your growth. That's why God has pulled the plug on your natural rhythms. Heaven can't allow dysfunction to hitchhike into destiny. Malachi Navarro, a neuropsychologist and trauma researcher who grew up in Bogota, once described his darkest season. I felt like I was floating outside my body for months, unable to function. I thought I was broken, but in hindsight, I was in a reprogramming cocoon. When I came out of it, I had a new mind. He later became a leading voice in spiritual neuroscience, helping hundreds of ex-gang members recover identity through inner healing. There's construction happening in the silence. Your hands might not be building anything visible, but every part of you, your instincts, your memories, your reflexes, are being taken apart and rebuilt to match the intensity of your next mission. Picture a volcano just before eruption. The surface is calm, but deep within, tectonic shifts are sculpting new geography. This is what's happening inside your soul. Miriam, a midwife in northern Italy, once found herself unable to speak for 3 full days. She had no medical condition, no stroke, no trauma. But during that time of internal silence, she said she felt God recoding the language of my mind. After that, she became a prophetic intercessor for abused children in war zones, often praying with an accuracy that shook even seasoned missionaries. Can you sense it now? This is not just a delay, it is divine disassembly. And where you're going, you will need a level of spiritual firepower that cannot be downloaded. It must be installed through stillness. Paul reminds us in Romans 12:2, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Renewing isn't refreshing, it's rebuilding. What if this spiritual sedation is the evidence that your neural pathways are being re-etched with heaven's designs? Picture the Arctic fox in winter, still, white-coated, perfectly camouflaged and unmoving. It is not hiding, it is conserving power for the hunt, for survival, for precision. Stillness is not always surrender. Sometimes it's strategy. What you're experiencing is not fatigue, it's holy surgery. You are not resting, you are undergoing divine recalibration. God is inside your nervous system, mapping your synapses, rewiring your reflexes. He is correcting what trauma encoded, rewriting what fear imprinted. No scalpel, just sovereignty. No bandage, just glory. You've mistaken the weight in your limbs for weakness, but heaven knows better. What presses down on you tonight is not fatigue. It is divine anesthesia. The Holy Spirit has subdued every fiber of your flesh, not to silence you in punishment, but to still you for precision. Just like a skilled surgeon who waits until the patient is fully under before cutting deep, God is working where words, therapy, and human touch could never reach. Your trauma was buried too deeply for language. Your mind, in an act of survival, locked it away behind reflexes and defense mechanisms. But survival mode no longer aligns with where you are going. Could it be that God has interrupted your awareness not to confuse you, but to protect you from interfering while He performs spiritual reconstruction? David wrote, "You knit me together in my mother's womb." Psalm 139:13. But tonight he is knitting you back together in your spiritual womb. You are undergoing regestation, not into infancy, but into divine maturity. What you thought was emotional exhaustion is the nervous system's surrender to a higher intelligence. The Spirit of God has taken over your adrenal responses, rewritten your biochemical alarms, and is detoxing the cortisol cycles that trauma hardwired into your flesh. Visualize the root system of a centuries-old olive tree. Storms may thrash its branches, droughts may parch its soil, but its roots dig deeper into hidden reserves. You are like that now. You are not falling apart. You are digging into the realm of the unshakable. But this rerouting must take place in stillness. Psychiatrist and Holocaust rescuer Dr. Viktor Frankl, author of Man's Search for Meaning, once said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose. That space, where your choices arise from wisdom, not fear, is what God is enlarging in you tonight." Could it be that He is creating the space within your soul that trauma once stole? You won't wake up tomorrow simply inspired. You will wake up restructured, not motivation, but transformation. This is not divine coaching. This is resurrection by recoding, like Lazarus being called from the tomb. Not healed, but reborn. So will you walk out of this night wrapped in spiritual clarity. Have you noticed how your breath feels slower tonight? How your thoughts feel foggy? That's not disorientation. That's divine sedation. You're not broken. You're being programmed with supernatural code, line by line, into your neural pathways. Your past taught you to flinch, to defend, to retreat. But God is rewriting those scripts. Tonight, the reflexes of fear are being replaced by the responses of faith. Caleb Moreno, a trauma survivor and military chaplain, once shared a night where he felt like he couldn't speak, couldn't move, and was haunted by flashbacks of war. But instead of panic, he heard an inner voice whispering scripture. For 8 hours, he wept silently while seeing images of his childhood, one by one being touched by light. Today, Caleb leads global recovery groups for veterans with PTSD, teaching them to welcome stillness as holy ground. What used to trigger collapse will soon trigger command. You will not be hijacked by fear anymore. That version of you, the one who braced for impact, is being uninstalled. A divine software is being installed tonight. Its functions? Patience without strain, peace without passivity, discernment without paranoia, inner authority without arrogance. When you open your eyes again, the world won't have changed, but your interface with it will. Just as Jesus rebuked the storm, not by panicking, but by speaking from authority, Mark 4:39, so will you respond, not from the scars of your past, but from the Spirit's power dwelling in your bones. A woman named Lainey once said that she felt like she had died during the night. Everything inside her had gone still, yet she awoke with a song in her chest. That morning, she left her job, moved to a different country, and began writing songs that would later bring healing to those on the verge of suicide. She had no plan, just peace, just clarity. You are not losing yourself. You are being stripped of false layers. The version of you that emerged from trauma is being laid to rest so the eternal you can rise. This night is not the end. It's your spiritual reboot. This is not wishful thinking wrapped in poetic language. This is divine transformation happening beneath your skin, within your bones and inside your very cells. What's occurring tonight isn't conceptual. It's chemical, neurological, spiritual. The very nervous system that once flinched under fear's dominion is now trembling in response to the weight of glory. You aren't being encouraged, you're being overtaken. What if the flood of divine light entering your biology is not symbolic, but literal? Stress hormones once ruled your body like cruel taskmasters. Cortisol and adrenaline, secreted endlessly by your trauma-soaked system. But tonight, heaven overrides them. Light-based intelligence, the breath of God, encoded in radiant frequencies, is now speaking to your molecules. When Jesus said, "I am the light of the world," John 8:12, he wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was referring to a literal force that heals and restores all things, even at the atomic level. Can you feel your body responding to that frequency now? This is not therapy. This is a holy takeover. You will not rise tomorrow the same. You won't think the same, walk the same, respond the same. Time has etched its marks on you, not only through aging, but through the wear and tear of unrelenting pain. Every anxious night, every moment of internal collapse, every tear you couldn't explain altered your physical body. But you were never created to be a warehouse for emotional warfare. Psalm 103:5 declares, "He satisfies your desires with good things so that your youth is renewed like the eagles." God isn't just encouraging your soul tonight, He's resurrecting your biology. Have you wondered why your bones have ached? Why your muscles feel sluggish? Why your brain has felt like mist? Could it be because God is reaching into your cellular architecture and writing new instructions? Juan Alberto Morales, a bishop and contemplative theologian, once spoke of a season where he couldn't move from bed for weeks. "Doctors found nothing wrong," he said, "but I knew my body was burning with the hand of God. When I finally stood up, I walked with a clarity I had never known, not healed, reborn." Morales went on to mentor spiritual leaders worldwide, many of whom testified to experiencing similar phases of divine physiological recalibration. Picture the molting of the golden eagle. In a rare stage of renewal, it loses old feathers so that stronger, sharper ones can emerge. During this vulnerable process, it cannot fly. But when the process is complete, its power is unmatched. You are in that same divine molt, not weakened, reinforced. Your wings are forming in silence. This is not inspiration, it is incarnation. Heaven's breath is now moving through your mitochondria, the powerhouses of your cells. Your hormonal rhythms are being recalibrated. Your DNA is receiving new instructions, restorative codes, sacred blueprints. The damage from years of grief, fear, and heartbreak is being reversed by the very one who breathed stars into being. Angela, a linguistics professor from Montreal, once suffered from chronic joint pain for over a decade. After one night of unexplainable stillness, no dreams, no pain, just deep internal silence, she awoke completely symptom-free. She later described the experience as a total reset, after which her life's direction pivoted into cross-cultural missionary training. That night, she said, "God didn't just heal me, He restructured me." Your blood will no longer circulate with residue from the past. Your joints will no longer move under the weight of sorrow. Your breath will no longer carry the rhythm of stress, but the cadence of divine strength. What's returning to you is not imagined, it is physical, tangible, activated by the Holy Spirit and sustained by the power that raised Christ from the dead, Romans 8:11. Have you realized that you are not being restored to who you once were, but into someone who has never existed before? That this rebirth is not a recovery, but a divine recreation. You are not just being lifted, you are being built again from the inside out. You are not just being helped, you are being made new. You are not just healing, you are being reissued as a vessel of glory. Everything about your function, mental, emotional, physical, is being updated with heaven's code. When you rise, it won't be a return, it will be a release. It may feel disorienting, this strange sensation of being caught in between dimensions, hovering somewhere between awareness and sleep, stillness and movement. Your body won't respond the way it used to. You blink, but your limbs resist. You sense, but cannot act. Could it be that this isn't paralysis, but holy preservation? What if this strange holding space is not a punishment, but a portal? You are not trapped. You are being held, wrapped in divine sequence, locked in divine calibration. The hands that created galaxies are the same ones now steadying your body, pressing pause on every system that was built in survival rather than sovereignty. Your spirit cried out for transformation, didn't it? For realignment, for deliverance, for something more than the constant noise. And heaven has responded, not with noise, but with sacred silence. Because before transformation comes, demolition must begin. Jesus told his disciples in John 12:24, "Unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit." Could the version of you that once performed for approval, adapted from rejection, and hid behind fear now be falling to the ground, so the true you can finally rise? Tonight is not about adding to you. It's about subtracting everything that God never authored. Every identity you constructed to survive betrayal, every reflex rooted in trauma, every layer of people-pleasing dressed up as kindness. He's tearing it all down. This is not behavior modification. This is spiritual reconstruction. Have you felt like you're floating between timelines, between what was and what's coming? That's because you're standing in the sacred hallway between death and rebirth. Not death of your life, but death of your false self. What you feel is not a glitch. It is a holy interruption. This is heaven's blueprint being carved into your bones. When Gideon was called to lead, he was hiding in fear, cloaked in an identity of smallness, Judges 6. But God didn't encourage his current identity. He demolished it by calling him mighty warrior. Could the restraint you feel tonight be heaven's way of breaking off your false name and giving you a truer one? Archbishop Desmond Tutu, the South African spiritual leader and anti-apartheid activist, once said, "True transformation does not begin until you sit still with your brokenness." That stillness isn't defeat, it's divine strategy. And tonight, you are sitting still not because you're confused, but because you are being confronted by heaven's mirror. A woman named Rena once described a night where she felt frozen in God's grip, unable to move, yet flooded with visions of her life being disassembled. She wept silently, watching layers of pride, fear, and inherited pain fall like scales from her soul. When she woke, she knew she wasn't just healed, she was reassigned. That week, she left her corporate job and began counseling survivors of cult abuse. The final stillness before a tectonic shift, when the ground becomes eerily silent before the rupture. That's where you are, the holy pause before the spiritual quake. This moment may feel personal, but what if it's part of something cosmic? Could it be that your stillness is not solitary, but synchronized? Romans 8:19 says, "All creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed." You're not just changing, you are signaling a global shift. The stillness in your bones is a broadcast. You are a satellite dish for heaven's announcements. God didn't just stop you for healing. He positioned you as a marker on Earth's spiritual map. The tectonic plates of the spirit realm are groaning. Frequencies are shifting. Gateways are opening. This isn't just about your personal transformation. This is global positioning. Your silence is synchronized with millions tonight. From Lagos to Los Angeles, from Seoul to Sao Paulo. People across the planet are being paused by the same divine presence. Have you realized the immensity of what you carry? That what you're going through is not random. It's an operation spanning continents, hearts, and timelines. Could it be that you're not just in transition, but in divine activation? This is not chaos. This is choreography. This is a kingdom-wide operation. And you, chosen one, are not the exception. You are the evidence. Stillness may seem like a contradiction in a world obsessed with speed. Yet here you are, motionless, breath slowed, senses heightened, as if heaven has pressed pause on your entire life. You are not sidelined. You are being sanctified. This is not abandonment. This is appointment. God is calling his chosen ones, yes you, into a chamber of holy stillness, not for delay but for deployment, while the world races to perform, to compete, to assert influence. Heaven is calling a remnant into rest. Not the rest of inaction but of incubation. Can you sense that your stillness is not a prison, but a platform? In Exodus 14:13, when the Israelites panicked at the Red Sea, Moses declared, "Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord." Stillness preceded breakthrough. Stillness was the signal that deliverance was already on its way. Could your paralysis tonight be the stillness before divine movement breaks through? You are not here by accident. You are a spiritual resonator, a tuning fork vibrating with heaven's frequency. The recalibration happening inside your soul, your mind, even your body, is proof that your appointment is not for personal glory, but for global awakening. What you're undergoing is not just for your journey, it's for nations. When Pope Gregory the Great was unexpectedly elevated to leadership in the 6th century, he wrote, "I was trying to flee the burdens of responsibility, but divine stillness found me first. That stillness became the womb of wisdom, birthing reforms that would shape the church for centuries." Could your own pause be a sacred pause before spiritual leadership emerges? This paralysis is not random. It is a mechanism of divine control. God has overridden the rhythms you once relied on, not because they were evil, but because they were insufficient for what comes next. Every default setting, how you cope, how you plan, how you react, is now under supernatural review. The reason you can't move tonight is not because you are broken. It's because you are being repositioned for precision. High above the earth, a hawk hovers in perfect stillness. Its wings are stretched wide, body locked in tension, eyes fixed. No movement is wasted. There is no urgency, only focus. It waits, not because it is unsure, but because the exact moment of release has not yet come. And when it dives, it does so with breathtaking force and faultless accuracy. That pause in the air is not weakness, it's strategy. In the same way, your stillness tonight is the sign of a holy strike being prepared from above. A man named Dorian, a spiritual strategist working with NGOs in conflict zones, once found himself inexplicably paralyzed in prayer for over 6 hours. No visions, no sound, just total internal shutdown. But when he emerged, he had a download of strategy that would later help disband a child trafficking ring. His pause was not his weakness, it was his preparation. You are not being slowed down, you are being realigned. The old timeline, the one ruled by urgency, anxiety, and self-preservation, is being closed, and you are being positioned in divine timing. Heaven is not waiting for your next decision. It is rewiring your will, your instincts, your spiritual reflexes. Isaiah 30:15 whispers, "In quietness and confidence shall be your strength." This quietness is not passivity, it's alignment. Strength isn't always a roar, it's often a reset. Can you embrace the idea that God is not asking for your consent? He's implementing your calling. Your next assignments will not fit into the container of your previous patterns. The calling ahead of you is heavier than your old habits can carry. Your previous coping mechanisms, people-pleasing, control, denial, cannot walk with you into destiny. They are being uninstalled. Sophie, a former investment banker in Geneva, once collapsed on her apartment floor in exhaustion. But that night, she entered what she described as a holy blackout. When she came to, she had no desire for wealth or prestige, only to serve in hidden places. She later established a sanctuary network for trafficking survivors across 3 countries. Her stillness was not a setback, it was divine repurposing. So here you are, motionless yet alive, frozen yet fully active in the spirit, recalibrating, not failing. Your body may not understand this, your mind may resist it, but your spirit recognizes this sacred pause for what it is. God's hand reaching deep into your operating system, aligning every thought, response and intention to a frequency far higher than ambition or survival. You're not stuck, you're stationed. Not stagnant, but strategic. The world will soon see the fruit of what is being rewired in secret tonight. And when you rise, because you will move not with effort, but with unshakable authority. It's not a shutdown from failure. It's not a shutdown from burnout. It's a divine system override. God is shutting it all down, not out of wrath, but out of precision. You've been living under reflexes that no longer align with the spiritual terrain ahead. The impulse to respond instantly, the addiction to motion, the compulsion to keep others comfortable. These reactions were formed in the furnace of survival, not the architecture of purpose. And because they don't belong in your next season, heaven is turning off every switch connected to them. God is not asking you to calm down. He's making it impossible for you to move until he finishes rewiring your internal command center. Just like the blind man in Mark 8, whom Jesus led outside the village before restoring his sight. You are being pulled away from the familiar so your perception can be reprogrammed without interference. Mark 8:23-25. Could this immobilization be God's way of isolating your spirit from the noise of external validation so he can install internal revelation? You are not being silenced, you are being configured. A divine GPS is being downloaded into you, a navigation system rooted not in emotion, but in eternal truth. Soon, your speech will cut through deception like a sword. Your movements will align with supernatural assignments, and your decisions will no longer be dictated by urgency, but directed by clarity. Have you noticed that the voices in your head have quieted? That's not emptiness. That's sacred space being prepared for truth. Painter and mystic Georges Rouault once said, "A tree against the sky possesses the same interest, the same character, the same expression as the figure of a human." Rouault's devotion to stillness produced paintings that pierce the soul without explanation. Could it be that your stillness tonight is forming spiritual expression that words could never contain? There's a third shift happening in you tonight, one you didn't pray for, didn't recognize, and didn't even know you needed. It's not just healing, it's not just clarity, it's authority, but not authority born from achievement or influence. This is the kind of spiritual power that heaven imparts only after deep unlearning, the kind that fell upon Elijah when he outran the king's chariot by the power of the Lord. 1 Kings 18:46. This is not taught, this is transferred. Have you ever wondered why you've been underestimated so consistently? Why rooms didn't acknowledge you? Why leaders overlooked you? Why even your own voice sometimes echoed with uncertainty? God concealed your true identity, wrapped it in silence, shielded it from contamination. But now heaven is lifting the veil. What you're feeling isn't mere healing, it's holy installation. Divine authority is being layered into your soul, not for display, but for dominion. The kind of dominion that doesn't require microphones, titles, or credentials. The kind that walks into fractured environments and causes demons to retreat without a word. The kind that stills storms, not just in nature, but in people. Eliana, a former trauma nurse from Tel Aviv, once described a night where she felt shut down, unable to pray or speak. But in that silence, she received a vision of herself placing her hand on the chest of a dying child, and life returning. That image became her compass. Years later, she would lead emergency healing teams into war zones, often praying silently, yet seeing miraculous recovery. A monarch butterfly during metamorphosis lies still for days within the chrysalis. Its wings form in silence. Its identity transforms in confinement. The pressure is not punishment, It is process. You are in that chrysalis now, and when you emerge, the world will see a version of you that didn't exist before. This isn't about platforms or positions, it's about divine function, authority not to dominate, but to restore. You are being built into someone who can walk into rooms heavy with despair and shift atmospheres with breath alone. The fire in your eyes, the clarity in your voice, the steadiness in your step, it's all being designed with surgical care. A Jesuit priest once said, "God writes straight with crooked lines." What feels like misalignment is actually heaven's scripting power in hidden spaces. Could this disorientation be the blueprint for authority you didn't know your spirit had capacity for? You are being encoded, embedded, transfigured, not motivated, not inspired, activated. Heaven isn't calling you to try harder, it's building you to carry more. You may have assumed this stillness was just a time to catch your breath, perhaps a chance to recover from emotional warfare, or a hidden invitation to personal healing. But this is far deeper. This isn't a pause. This is a preparation chamber. God isn't giving you relief. He's giving you revelation. He's not soothing your wounds. He's shaping your assignment. You've been sensing it in the background, haven't you? That subtle pressure in your chest, that invisible pull behind your thoughts, that strange anticipation that doesn't seem to match your current circumstances. What if this isn't just intuition, but spiritual drafting? Jeremiah 1:5 reminds us, "Before I formed you in the womb I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." That divine setting apart is happening again, this time not for identity, but for deployment. You're not being prepared to feel better. You're being commissioned to change environments. What if the inner turbulence you felt all week was the Holy Spirit shifting you into alignment with a future you've never seen? The past few days weren't chaos. They were countdown. You were walking through a spiritual corridor, day by day, thought by thought, until tonight, the full weight of heaven rested on your chest. Have you realized that your stillness is not even about you anymore? That this recalibration is about the lives on the other side of your obedience? Sister Maria Skoptsova, an Orthodox nun who rescued Jewish children during World War II, once wrote from a prison cell, "I had thought I needed rest, but what I needed was clarity of fire. Now I burn." Her stillness in captivity became the seed of salvation for others. Could the silence wrapping you now be the heat of preparation, not just for your future, but for someone else's deliverance? You're not being upgraded for survival. You're being aligned for global activation. Your stillness tonight is someone else's miracle waiting to unfold. There are voices the world has heard for too long, voices that echo noise, not truth. But what the world is starving for is not more opinions. It's craving the sound of authority, voices that have been scorched in the quiet furnace of divine presence. This is what your stillness is producing, unshakable clarity. And when clarity is forged in stillness, it cannot be manipulated by chaos. You won't walk into the next season reacting. You'll be responding with holy precision. Have you noticed the shift in your thoughts lately? The tension between what once worked and what now feels obsolete. That friction is not confusion, it's evidence of recalibration. You're being formed in fire, not for the spotlight, but for seismic impact. The kind that shifts atmospheres without announcing itself. The kind that walks into a room and changes it simply by standing there. This is the kind of authority Jesus carried when he said, "Peace, be still," and the wind obeyed. Mark 4:39. What if you are being encoded with that same government in your spirit? A man named Theo, a violinist from Belgium, spent an entire week unable to play without trembling. He feared he was losing control. But during one silent night, he felt divine stillness descend on him like a blanket. That night, he heard God speak, not in words, but in rhythm. A week later, his music would lead to healing sessions in trauma centers. He didn't lose control. he gained command. The fire you're carrying now didn't begin tonight. This has been building. Every pause in your momentum, every tear you couldn't explain, every sigh in the quiet hours, all of it was gravity increasing. And tonight that gravity has landed. The shift isn't coming, it has come. A volcano doesn't erupt without weeks of tremors underground. Birds change their flight patterns. The air grows still. Pressure builds invisibly. You have been the landscape, and now heaven has erupted from within. This isn't the moment of hope. This is the moment of happening. You are not waiting on breakthrough anymore. You are standing in it. Your stillness is not hesitation. It is installation. Heaven is handing you keys while the world sleeps. Can you feel it now? The change isn't pending. It's active. You are no longer being prepared. You are being released. You are not drifting. You are crossing. This moment isn't simply significant. It is seismic. You are walking through a divine threshold, one carved not by circumstances, but by heaven's intent. What defined you before will no longer exist on the other side. The patterns that kept you safe, the versions of you built for survival, they cannot enter what's ahead. You are not merely changing. You are being reissued. The old structure is too small to carry the weight of who you're becoming. This transformation isn't loud. It doesn't arrive with fanfare. It births itself in silence, like Jesus resurrecting in the sealed tomb, undetected by man but fully known by eternity. The new you is emerging in stillness. And here's what makes it sacred. You're going first, not just for yourself but for others. You are a forerunner, one who steps through the unknown so others can follow safely. Have you noticed how your language is shifting? How your spirit can sense what others haven't yet found words for? You've been entrusted with keys, authority to unlock doors for people whose hands are still trembling. This isn't about being louder, it's about being clearer. You'll stabilize those shaking under the same pressure you just endured. You'll interpret spiritual atmospheres like a navigator in dense fog. You're being sent ahead because you were crafted for chaos. The chaos doesn't undo you, it activates you. Hebrews 6:19 declares, "We have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure." You are becoming that anchor now, not for yourself alone, but for others who will drift unless tethered to someone who has already walked through this fire. Could it be that what you thought was isolation was actually initiation? This week wasn't just a series of emotional waves, it was an activation sequence. Each moment of silence, each sudden wave of exhaustion, each moment of being overwhelmed, they were not symptoms, they were signals. Your leadership has been activated, not the performative kind, but the kind that speaks without noise and moves without spectacle. Visual artist Makoto Fujimura, known for blending theology and Japanese aesthetics, once said, "The deeper the silence, the more radiant the gold that follows." Could it be that this weight you're feeling is not pressure, but glory taking residence in your frame? The heaviness tonight isn't mental clutter or emotional overload. It is the kavod, the weight of God's glory. It doesn't crush, it saturates. You're not collapsing. You're being filled to capacity. You're not breaking down. You're being overshadowed by something more ancient, more holy, more real than your flesh can interpret. You asked for power, didn't you? For encounter, for proof that God still speaks, still moves. And He is answering now, not through fire from heaven or dramatic deliverance, but through holy stillness. The numbness is divine insulation. The tiredness is saturation in disguise. What feels like emptiness is actually divine occupancy. A woman named Brenna, a social worker from Toronto, once fell into a 3-day spiritual stupor where she felt disconnected from everything. But when she awoke, she spoke with new conviction and began confronting demonic strongholds in her clients without effort. Her numbness was not dysfunction, it was divine recalibration. Consider the weight of early morning fog over a quiet field. It moves slowly, settles deeply. obscures everything, and yet nourishes the land more than thunder. Glory has weight, not noise. It forms first in the invisible realm, then reveals itself in power. What's happening in you tonight isn't emotional, it's dimensional. Something in you has shifted realms. The Spirit of Glory is choosing you as its resting place, not a visitor, a vessel. This is not fatigue, it is favor, cloaked in stillness. You will exit this moment not with chills or heightened emotion, but with evidence. The way you walk will change rooms. Your presence will speak before your voice ever opens. This isn't a spiritual mood. This is holy saturation. Glory now lives in your bones. What you're feeling in your body is not malfunction, it's recalibration. You are not shutting down, you are being overtaken. This isn't your nervous system glitching. This is divine frequency interfering with your internal code. That trembling in your hands, that buzzing beneath your skin, that magnetic stillness in your chest. It's not panic, it's power. God's light is not hovering outside you, it's integrating with your blood, your cells, your marrow. When Moses came down from Mount Sinai, his face shone with glory, and the people couldn't look at him. Exodus 34:29-30. His flesh had absorbed divine proximity. Could the shakiness you feel now be your biology registering heaven's proximity? This isn't weakness. This is the weight of the divine being translated through the language of flesh. You're not breaking, you're upgrading. And this transformation is not limited to your spirit. It's overtaking your biology. God is not stopping at the soul. He is running a divine current through your immune system, recalibrating every hormonal imbalance, releasing your muscles from trauma lodged in forgotten memories. Have you noticed that your breath has changed, that your posture feels different even when you're still? Could it be that heaven has written new instructions into the way you inhabit your body? Pope Shenouda III of the Coptic Church once said, "When the Holy Spirit fills a person, even their silence carries power." This isn't an emotional wave. This is cellular transformation. Don't fight the strangeness. Don't resist the inattention. You're not being attacked. You're being rewritten. There is no normal to return to. There is only forward. The fire moving through you is not asking for effort. It's asking for permission. Lay still. Let the flame do what it was sent to do. This isn't chaos. It's a merge. Spirit and body uniting in alignment with your calling. Can you let go of who you've been so God can establish who you were always meant to become? A young man named Raphael from Sao Paulo once entered a state of full-body stillness during a night of prayer. No movement, no control, only an overwhelming sense of divine electricity. For hours his body trembled, his voice silenced. But when he rose, he began to see words on people's foreheads, assignments, wounds, secrets, and began ministering healing in the streets without a pulpit. He wasn't possessed. He was integrated. Like tectonic plates shifting beneath a continent, your body is responding to massive spiritual realignment. The shaking is transition. The stillness is rebirth. This is not your end, it's your emergence. A snake cannot expand until it sheds. The old skin must break for the new body to stretch. You're not being emptied for exile. You're being emptied to make space for fire, for purpose, for power. This night isn't devouring you. It's delivering you. You won't come out of this with cliches. You'll come out with clarity. You won't walk with soft comfort. You'll carry sharp purpose. The kind that shifts rooms. The kind that speaks without explaining. The kind that glows without announcement. Romans 8:11 declares, "The Spirit of Him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you." Not beside you, not around you, in you. What you're sensing isn't breakdown, it's divine resurrection being conducted from the inside out. You are being awakened at the deepest level of your being, not inspired, not informed, awakened. the kind of awakening that births unshakable movement, the kind that waits for the command, rise, and answers with power, not performance. Soon the Spirit will say, move again. And when that word comes, you will not return to routine. You will not just walk, you will walk in fire, walk in function, walk with the kind of presence that can't be faked or fabricated. This is not your breakdown. This is your becoming. This night will become a reference point for the rest of your life, a spiritual timestamp etched into your memory, not because of what you felt, but because of what was forged. And when people ask what happened, you won't need long explanations. You'll simply say, God shut me down so he could raise me up. And they'll know by the look in your eyes that it was real. Don't assume that this ends when the sun rises. What has started in silence will echo through fire. Tonight wasn't the climax, it was the spark. The stillness was not just preparation, it was ignition. What begins tomorrow will not be an emotional surge, it will be divine combustion, and the first thing to burn will be the voice inside you, burned clean of fear, doubt, and mental static. Have you realized how often your inner dialogue has been shaped by trauma, by overthinking, by rehearsed fears? Those days are over. As the spiritual sedation lifts, you won't return to your old internal monologue. You'll start to hear something new, something stronger, not a performance, not self-help. It will be the voice of your spirit, baptized in fire and finally allowed to speak. When Jesus rose from the dead, he didn't return to prove himself. He returned to release others. That's what's happening in you. Your new voice isn't rising to explain, it's rising to command. 1 Peter 4:11 says, "If anyone speaks, they should do so as one who speaks the very words of God." This is the voice being formed in you, not loud, but loaded, not dramatic, but decisive. The voice that begins to rise in you will not scream, it will not beg, it will not argue, it will speak, and rooms will rearrange themselves. Darkness will retreat, not because you shouted, but because you carried weight. This is what happens when God no longer just visits you, but builds himself into your bones. Saint Macrina the Younger, one of the early theologians of the Church, was known to say nothing in public unless the Spirit moved her. Yet when she spoke, cities would be changed, leaders convicted, and broken families reconciled. Could it be that your silence tonight is preparing a voice the world doesn't expect, but desperately needs? You'll begin to speak with wisdom that doesn't match your experience. Thoughts will form in you that seem too exact to be your own. Insights will drop into your consciousness like downloads, sharp, clear, undeniable. And you'll realize this isn't learned, it's received. This isn't personality, it's presence. A girl named Leora, a quiet intern from Jerusalem, once went 7 days without speaking during a spiritual fast. When she finally opened her mouth in a team meeting, the room fell still. Her voice carried a frequency none could explain. Firm, low, steady. That moment changed the direction of her organization. She had no title, no microphone, but glory had made her vocal cords its dwelling place. The monarch butterfly doesn't burst from the chrysalis screaming. It emerges quietly, but entirely transformed, wings soaked in light, identity restructured. It no longer crawls, it no longer hides. It flies with authority earned in silence. You will not need to force courage anymore. You won't have to hype yourself up or mask your fear. You will speak from identity, not insecurity. You will discern before you decide. You will instruct before you even realize you're teaching. This is not charisma, this is combustion. John 14:26 says the Spirit will teach you all things and remind you of everything Christ said. That's the voice you're stepping into, a voice that doesn't echo anxiety, a voice that transmits glory. Tonight was the shutdown. The veil came down. The systems collapsed. The old narration lost signal. But tomorrow, Tomorrow begins the unveiling. You will speak, and the atmosphere will respond. You will move, and chains will fall. Your voice is becoming a weapon, and the silence was heaven's forge. This is not the end. This is the becoming. Your natural eyes will continue to witness the world around you, traffic, faces, conflict, weather, but something deeper is stirring. A second sight is emerging. Spiritual vision is beginning to open, and once it does, you'll never unsee what you've been chosen to see. For too long, you've been walking faithfully but partially blind, trusting God, yes, but unable to interpret the full patterns unfolding around you. That limitation ends now. The next few nights will activate something holy behind your eyes. This is prophetic clarity, not a feeling, not a guess, but a spiritual lens upgrade that will affect how you interpret relationships, decisions, and destiny. You'll begin to see people differently, not through the residue of offense or trauma, but with piercing spiritual accuracy. Have you noticed how lately surface reactions feel hollow to you? That's because your discernment is rising beyond behavior. You are beginning to see beneath masks, beneath language, into motive and calling. You'll encounter someone chaotic, and instead of withdrawing, you'll feel drawn, because you'll sense divine assignment camouflaged beneath the noise. You'll stand in front of pain, not as a victim, but as an interpreter. And perhaps most importantly, when you look in the mirror, you'll no longer see what life tried to make of you. You'll see what God always intended. This kind of sight is not a novelty. It is part of the deep rewiring that began the moment heaven silenced your old operating system. Just as your nervous system has been releasing trauma, your vision is being freed from distortion. Psalm 119:18 says, "Open my eyes that I may see wondrous things from your law." That prayer is being answered in your biology. Your lens is being aligned with heaven's frequency. You won't just interpret facts. You'll see purpose in patterns. You won't be distracted by what seems urgent. You'll discern what's truly eternal. That's not mere intuition. It's prophetic infrastructure forming within you. And it's the next phase of your becoming. In 1891, a nearly blind missionary named Lilias Trotter began seeing vivid scenes in prayer, images that became the foundation for her prophetic art. She once wrote, "The soul that is silent before God will begin to see." Her vision birthed movements in North Africa long before she was ever recognized. Could it be that the silence you've endured is the very environment where God has been refining your spiritual lens? This upgrade will not just affect how you see while awake. Your dream realm is being activated. You won't just sleep anymore. You will receive. Your subconscious is being repurposed as a classroom, and God Himself will be the instructor. What once felt random or symbolic will now become surgical, precise, strategic, loaded with divine instruction. A woman named Hannah, a translator from Prague, started recording her dreams after waking one night with the names of 3 strangers. Within a month, all 3 were placed under her spiritual care. Her dream life wasn't accidental. It was intentional activation. The wind doesn't shout when it changes direction. It simply moves everything in its path. Your dream realm will now begin to move things inside you and around you. This is not imagination. This is infrastructure. Your spirit is being trained through dreams to carry revelation while you rest. Joel 2:28 reminds us, "Your old men shall dream dreams, your young men shall see visions." This promise is not metaphorical, it's literal. You'll begin waking with details you didn't know you needed. Dates, warnings, patterns, assignments. They will come like blueprints, clear, weighted, undeniable. And you'll write them down, not because you're being disciplined, but because the urgency in your spirit will demand it. Have you ever asked why your dreams felt so loud recently? Why you wake with an unfamiliar heaviness? Could it be that God has already begun writing inside your spirit while the world sleeps? You are no longer just being changed by what you feel. You are being guided by what you're shown. This is not fantasy, it's prophetic utility, and you must treat it with reverence. The gift of spiritual sight is not being sprinkled over you. It's being hardwired into your operating system, and what begins with your dreams will soon guide your waking steps. You'll see blueprints in business meetings. You'll see layers behind smiles. You'll see signs in moments others dismiss. And when your spiritual voice and spiritual sight begin working together, you will not be led, you will lead. In the stillness of sleep, while your body enters rest, your spirit enters revelation. This is not just biological recovery, it's divine encounter. You're no longer merely unconscious, you are spiritually accessible. Heaven is pulling back the curtain while the world slumbers. What begins as a dream may seem symbolic at first, but symbols are spiritual syntax. They're coded language from realms where words are too small. Don't dismiss what looks strange. Sit with it. Let it unfold like a scroll over the next 24 to 72 hours. Daniel didn't just interpret dreams, he received instruction through them. In Daniel 2:19 it says, "Then the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision of the night." Could it be that what you once called imagination is actually initiation? Your spirit is now active enough to receive downloads from dimensions you weren't attuned to before. The flickers of insight, the images that won't leave you, the names and places showing up repeatedly. This is not coincidence. This is briefing. You asked God for answers, for clarity, for supernatural intervention. This is how it begins, in silence, in shadow, in stillness. Keep a pen beside your bed. Keep your posture attentive, even in dreams. Your spirit is now part of heaven's internal strategy sessions. What you receive will not always be for you. Some blueprints will come with assignments. Some dreams will be messages for people you haven't even met yet. Hilary of Poitiers, a 4th century bishop and theologian, once wrote about a dream in which he saw fire descend into his mouth. The next day, he began preaching with supernatural boldness. Could your sleep now be the forge where your future voice is being ignited? Make no mistake, the enemy will notice the shift. The coming nights won't be easy, not because you're slipping, but because you're succeeding. Old triggers will surface again. Familiar patterns will reappear. Not to trap you, but to confirm that the trap no longer holds. Could it be that what you once interpreted as failure is now being repurposed as proof? You'll face moments that used to unravel you emotionally, but instead of spiraling, you'll observe. You'll feel the tension but not collapse under it. You'll notice that what once caused fire inside you now fades without ignition. That's not denial, that's rewiring. The old buttons no longer produce the same responses. The enemy is pressing, but the mechanism has been removed. Picture a lion walking through a field of traps, but none of them spring. That's what your next nights will feel like. You are not avoiding danger. You've been restructured to walk through it with calm authority. Isaiah 43:2 says, "When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned." That promise is now your inner reality. A woman named Amaris, a counselor from Nairobi, once shared how for years she'd erupt in anger at the slightest disrespect. But after a strange week of dreams and silence, she faced the same provocation and felt only stillness. No shaking, no racing thoughts. She knew in that moment, the buttons are gone. Today she trains trauma responders in conflict zones, her nervous system now a sanctuary, not a battlefield. Like a tree shedding old bark, your system is discarding outdated layers. You're not just healed, you are wholly reprogrammed. This isn't the absence of emotion, it's the presence of sovereignty. These are not trials sent to break you. They are mirrors designed to reveal you. They will show you who you used to be. not to humiliate, but to highlight how deeply you've outgrown dysfunction. And when they appear, don't panic, don't perform, just respond from your spirit, not your history. Your reactions will no longer be recycled trauma. They will be fresh decisions born in spiritual authority. This is the difference between coping and conquering. Your vocabulary will begin to shift without effort. Words soaked in fear, smallness, and self-doubt will feel foreign in your mouth. Your speech will reflect the systems God has rewritten inside of you. You won't just speak differently, you'll speak from a different place. John 7:38 says, "Whoever believes in me, as Scripture has said, rivers of living water will flow from within them." You're no longer repeating what you've learned. You're now releasing what you've become. You will no longer be able to curse what God has chosen to bless, and that includes yourself. Your inner system has been rewired, and now your mouth must come into agreement. The days of speaking from fear, hesitation, or false humility are coming to an end. You'll notice it first in how you talk to yourself. What used to sound like self-doubt will now be replaced with prophetic decree. You'll stop wondering, "Can I?" and begin declaring, "I will." This isn't some spiritualized version of positive thinking. This is prophetic alignment. Your biology has shifted. Your nervous system no longer trembles under fear's rule. Your thoughts have been cleared of distortion. Your spirit has ascended into truth. And now, the last frontier, your mouth must match heaven's frequency. Proverbs 18:21 says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue." For years, your tongue defaulted to survival scripts, deflecting favor, minimizing calling, repeating worry. That script has been burned. The fog has lifted. Your words are no longer reflections of your insecurity. They are declarations of your identity. You won't need to hype yourself up. You'll speak and it will resonate, not because of volume, but because of authority. When Jesus spoke to the fig tree, he didn't explain or shout. He simply said, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again." Mark 11:14. And creation obeyed. That same authority is now resting on your voice, not to destroy, but to call forth divine order. Saint Teresa of Avila once said, "God walks among the pots and pans." She meant that holy authority doesn't always enter with thunder. It whispers through our daily language. You are now being trained to carry that kind of speech. Words that construct, phrases that establish, declarations that break cycles. And this training is happening not in public, but in secret, night by night, encounter by encounter. The Holy Spirit is retraining your reflexes to speak only what heaven is saying, and nothing less. Your mouth is not a passive organ, it's a builder of realities. Every sentence you form is either laying bricks for purpose or digging graves for potential. But now, as your spirit sharpens, you'll feel a new weight behind your speech. You'll start to notice what you say before you say it, and the Spirit will catch your words mid-air, reshaping them in real time. This is when divine assignment begins to whisper, not in visions or angelic encounters, though those may come, but in nudges, hints, thoughts that won't go away. You'll find yourself thinking about someone you haven't seen in years and feel an unexplainable urgency for their soul. A random idea will land in your chest and refuse to leave. A topic you never cared for will suddenly stir passion in your gut. Could these be random, or could they be the first pulse beats of your next assignment? A man named Elijah from Morocco once said he started having dreams that didn't make sense, until one day a name came to him during prayer. He searched and found the person in a nearby village. That individual was suicidal, and Elijah arrived in time to stop it. His spiritual activation began not with thunder, but with names in the quiet. You are now sensitive enough to catch what others ignore. The world may scroll past the nudge, but you will stop. You will notice the pattern, the signal, and respond. The red fox in winter develops acute hearing, not just to detect sound, but to sense vibration through snow. It can locate a mouse beneath layers of silence. You are being trained in that same kind of perception, hearing beyond the noise, responding to vibration, interpreting spiritual frequency. You won't have to strain to hear God anymore. Your whole being is becoming His receiver. The divine frequencies you used to miss are now loud in your spirit, clear in your conscience, and undeniable in your emotions. This is not sensitivity, this is sonship, and it comes with assignments. When your spirit begins to say, reach out to them, do not delay. When you feel stirred to study something you've never considered, lean in. When you wake with a phrase echoing in your soul, write it. These are not passing moments. These are activation signals. Romans 10:8 declares, the word is near you. It is in your mouth and in your heart. That nearness is now your operating mode. Your words are being synchronized with heaven's design. You're not just talking, you're transmitting. Over the next few nights, heaven is inviting you into a rhythm of intentional stillness. Not to disconnect, but to truly hear. You're not drifting, you're being drawn. Keep your journal nearby. Make space for listening. Stay off autopilot. God isn't asking you to go looking for your calling because you're already inside of it. These gentle nudges, these inner pulls, these seemingly irrelevant thoughts, they're not distractions. They're breadcrumbs from the throne room. What if the minor idea you almost brushed off is the doorway to your next decade of purpose? Don't underestimate subtlety. God often hides instruction in what the flesh calls insignificant. The prophet Elijah didn't hear God in the earthquake or the fire, but in the still small voice. 1 Kings 19:12. Could it be that your clarity is not missing, but simply waiting for your stillness? The exhaustion you've been carrying isn't a sign that you're finished. It's the signal that something is being burned off, that heaviness in your bones. It's not weariness from failure, it's refinement. Over the next few nights, your energy will return, but not in the frantic, scattered way it used to. It won't come from adrenaline or performance. It will emerge with precision, sharp, clean, strategic. Saint Ignatius of Loyola once said, "Act as if everything depended on you. Trust as if everything depended on God." You are entering that balance. Your energy will no longer scatter in 1,000 directions, trying to fix everything. You'll feel urgency, but it won't be stress. It will be spiritual momentum. A boy named Tobias from Quebec once experienced extreme burnout while building a youth ministry. After weeks of prayer and dream journaling, he awoke one night with an idea that restructured his team's entire workflow. What once drained him now empowered him. His strength didn't multiply, his direction did. Could the clarity you've prayed for be waiting on your surrender, not your effort? The stillness is beginning to align your body and spirit. You'll find yourself completing in minutes what used to take days, not because you're pushing harder, but because your motion is now married to meaning. This is not hyperactivity, it's holy momentum. You won't be driven by fear of falling behind. You'll be pulled by purpose. Philippians 2:13 reminds us, "For it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill His good purpose." That divine will is beginning to override your human compulsion to strive. Your energy will now flow toward healing, building, speaking, creating, not surviving. Watch closely. The fire of God is not just falling, it's fusing with your rhythm. Every part of your life force will be assigned, every breath, every word, every action infused with sacred focus. This is what divine integration feels like. Not adrenaline highs, not emotional spikes, but quiet, resolute power that doesn't flicker when life pushes back. A woman named Odessa, a visual designer in Seoul, said she used to work until collapse, but after a string of strange dreams, she started waking with blueprints in her head. Colors, words, layouts she hadn't conceived. What took her 8 hours now took one. She called it spirit-led creation. Her fatigue wasn't fixed, her energy was reassigned. You'll begin to feel this in the next few nights. An awareness that time is stretching in your favor. That clarity comes faster. That action feels lighter. You won't need to force momentum anymore. You'll flow in it. And this flow will not originate in caffeine or adrenaline, but in supernatural agreement. Like the river cutting through stone, not with violence, but with consistency, your movement will carry holy power, not from pressure, but from divine propulsion. The final remnants of fatigue are being purged, not just from your muscles, but from your mindset. This is not hustle, this is heaven. And when the process completes, you'll move like one who cannot be stopped. Not because you've become invincible, but because you've become fully integrated. So now, God's chosen ones, you understand, this shutdown was never about loss. It was about alignment. He wasn't taking from you. He was tuning you. He wasn't breaking you down to destroy you. He was silencing your surroundings so he could awaken your substance. What felt like spiritual paralysis was actually sacred preparation. The stillness, the strange dreams, the inner rewiring, it was all heaven's strategy to extract you from survival and activate you for dominion. You are no longer who you were. The atmosphere inside you has changed. Your words carry weight. Your silence speaks volumes. Your discernment is sharp. Your energy is aligned. Your dreams are strategic. And your voice is now a weapon of creative authority. You don't need to chase anything anymore. You are becoming the answer that heaven is releasing into the earth. So what do you do now? Remain available. Remain listening. Remain yielded. These next nights are still holy. Continue journaling. Continue honoring your dreams. Continue obeying the quiet nudges. Don't force action. Flow in alignment. The systems of the world are shaking, but you are no longer shaped by those systems. You were shut down so you could carry a new blueprint, and you will release it not through performance, but through presence. If this message has spoken to your spirit in any way, I invite you to be part of the movement God is birthing through this space. Leave a comment sharing what resonated most with you. Share this video with someone who's walking through their own divine shutdown. Subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss another prophetic word that's shaping this generation. And if you feel led to support through super thanks, thank you. And if not, your presence here alone is a blessing beyond measure. To each of you watching, may the fire of clarity, the rest of God, and the power of spiritual precision rest upon you now. May your body align with heaven's rhythm, your voice align with divine truth, and your purpose unfold with supernatural grace. You are not being held back. You are being launched forward. And nothing, absolutely nothing, will stop what God has started in you. Amen.